I'll do a little intro and then we'll go straight into it. Preparing. All right, we're live on Facebook. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this special New Year's edition of Apex Pro Facebook Live. I'm here with my good friend Eric Meyer of Instructor Summit. He's here. We're going to be talking about and reviewing the data that you sent us from the Facebook post that we made on the beginner data acquisition resource page and the Apex Pro users group. So big shout out to all you who sent your data. We'll try to get to it all. We're going to try to wrap up in about 30 minutes, so we might not touch it all. But we are doing Road Atlanta because there's a very special event coming up soon at Road Atlanta that's a really big deal. I'm really excited to be there for it because I missed the inaugural one in Indy last year, and I just can't wait to see what it's all about. So Eric, tell us a little bit about what's going on January 18th and 19th at the Road Atlanta Drivers Club.
Road Atlanta Driving Club. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, James. Thank you, Dale. We've got we have our first outside of Indianapolis Instructor Summit Saturday, January 18th. The 19th is a half-day data acquisition for beginners. The whole event is geared around instructors. It's sponsored by Instructor Summit, sponsored by Haggerty Insurance, and our friends at Winding Road are going to be there sponsoring the refreshments. We had a big turnout of about 100 planned. Gonna have a good time.
Right on. Well, I'm pumped to be there. I'm going to drop a link real quick in the comments, guys. So check out those comments and you can go ahead and sign up. We've still got space for people to come and join us. I'll be there Saturday. It's going to be a ton of fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, it's the holiday time. Everybody's probably doing all sorts of family stuff. I know I certainly have been. So tell us what you've done this holiday season that's been fun, or what'd you get that's cool for Christmas? Drop it in the comments. What'd you get for Christmas? Like, share, hit the wow face if you're really pumped and you got race car parts, or maybe an Apex Pro, or maybe somebody bought you a registration to Instructor Summit for Christmas, because that's really the gift that keeps on giving, Clark. Guys, like and share, like I said. Let us know what you got for Christmas. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. Eric, what'd you get for Christmas?
Oh, my best thing, my sister got me this big ass scuba bag with wheels, and it's awesome. And as soon as I got it, I want to go to a trip. So my most favorite thing was a big scuba diving gear bag with wheels and a handle and the whole 9 yards. So
Right
how about
on.
you?
I got a couple different things, but I got a barber jacket, like made in England barber with a U in it. And I really needed some outdoor like apparel because the first part of the racing season is always wet and cold. And last year I didn't have the right jacket. So now I've got a very stately looking outdoor jacket to wear to the racetrack. That's what I really needed. I'm pumped. Yeah, really good Christmas. Can't complain. It was a lot of fun. Looking forward to.
You want to have some fun?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some data. So guys, what's really important to know before we get too far into this, I'm going to share our data review screen over here, and we'll take a look at some data from Road Atlanta. This app is actually an internal test build. So if you're seeing some stuff on here and you're going, hey, I haven't seen that yet, that might be why. I'll point some of it out as we go, but most of it we're going to leave so that you can see it when the next update gets released, because this is a big update. There's lots of cool stuff coming. Actually, at Instructor Summit in Indianapolis in February.
Oh, you're not going to leak that, are you?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it yet, but there is some cool stuff coming. It might be something people have been asking for really a very long time. So I would urge you to stay tuned into all of our channels because there is a big announcement coming here soon.
It's really cool. I can't say anything.
Eric's sworn to secrecy. All right, so let's jump right into this, Eric. We'll do I'll let you steer the ship here once we get going. But this is data from our friend Clifford Robertson. Thanks for sending it in, Clifford. It's from a Ford Focus, and he was actually racing Lemons at Road Atlanta. It was his first wheel-to-wheel race. Clifford reached out to me and said, I had more fun than you can possibly imagine. I'm going to be doing more wheel-to-wheel, and sent me this data. So Eric, what do you see? I've got the long G trace pulled up on the bottom, and we've got our GPS satellite image on the top.
Okay, so are we playing, hey, what do you see? Is that kind of what we're thinking here?
Hey, what do you see?
Cool. Awesome. Well, here's what I see. So if I'm brand new and I'm looking at data, I want to be able to easily see something. So the first things I see over here are these numbers, these grip numbers, and I know they're because they're in the high 60 range, mid 60s, like you said, Ford Focus. That's probably geared because of its long back straight right here. I see a bunch of these lap times in the 54s, right? 53s, which support a more of a momentum type car, right? Than a big old nasty super dragster Z06 kind of thing. I see in here, I spy with my little eye, and I
That's
like
what
this.
we need to call this. I knew there was a good name for what we're doing here, and it's called I Spy.
So here's our 0 right here. I want everybody to see that. You got to just look into this. So here's what I see. I see from right here to right here. And if we remember, that's the back straight, right? I see when we're pulling off the corner at turn 7, we look like we're 0.2 right here. And as we get down to almost the braking zone, it's about 0, right? It's not accelerating because right there, it's on the 0 line, right? It's neither. Can you tell us a little bit more about kind of what that measurement is, Mr. Rains?
Yeah, well, when we're looking at the long G trace, like you said, you gotta first locate that 0 line, and after that, it's important to know how all these different things interact. So what you're looking at there, Eric, is the car is going to not accelerate as hard at higher speed. I think that's really important to remember, right? And you also pointed out this guy right here, this little divot that's probably an upshift on the back straightaway. That's really important.
Will you put the cursor right there?
Right here?
Yes, sir.
It's there.
Show where that spot is on the track, sir.
I will.
It should be at the about 30. This is a new feature I really, really like. Is everybody seeing this over here?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric. So guys, you might have noticed before that the speed or the display readout, whatever it was showing you, whatever that data metric was actually following the trace. Now it's going to be in the right corner right there.
If I'm an instructor, I'm telling the student, here's where you're shifting.
Yes.
And as you put that right on the on that spot, right? I'm saying you're shifting right here. You can probably see that better with Andrew's green arrow. And they would say, oh yeah, I am. It's a reference support help to go, oh yeah. Because a lot of times people will look at all this and go, I don't know where I'm at.
Yep. That's our reference.
Out going, hey, you're here. Hey, look, absolutely. This is a giant brake zone. Where's a giant brake zone? Oh, that's over here. Yep, you get it, brother.
Absolutely.
There's something in here that's really wild right here, dude. I want everybody to see this. So this is, like you said, a Ford Focus. Looky right here. Could you put the cursor right there, sir? This is like coming out of 10A and 10B. Well, look at that.
There's an acceleration spike.
That's not an anomaly right there of a GPS lost signal because we're under the bridge. Look at that. That is really wild.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that curbing is really, really aggressive right there, and that could totally have created enough disturbance for the accelerometer to be falsely, for
that's
false,
exactly what that
acceleration. Because when we're looking at that, we know this. Look, this is our peak acceleration out of turn 7. This is the slowest corner on the track right here, and our peak acceleration in this car is 0.2 positive G, and over here we're going 0.34, and I can see that right there. And so that tells us right away that's kind of an anomaly.
Yep, there's our 0 line. There's no way. Wow, good find, dude. Good find.
Absolutely, Eric. I'm going to shift to the speed trace. Let's look at the speed trace for just a second here, and then let's move on to our next set of data.
All righty.
What stands out to you? What do you spy with your little eye?
Well, I'd like to usually do the easier stuff first, and give anybody watching or those that are watching the opportunity to say, what do you see? I see a couple things, and I usually start like over here and go this way. So I see this little guy right here, And I'm going over and I see this little guy right here, and I'm going over and I see the guy right here. I'm looking over here. This looks a little rounded right here. I see the change in the slope right here. I see this right here, which is interesting. And I see this right here, which we probably know is a shift. Coincidentally, I like to show everybody this. Coincidentally, that right there, if the car has to shift at 100, right, Mr. Rains, here, it probably has to shift 100 on another side of the track, which means that over here it might be doing the same thing. And actually it is, because that's coming back around here.
Yep.
Will you, I just probably blew everybody away and I put too much stuff on there. Will you do that again, brother?
Sure. Yeah, I'll reinforce a couple of those things. So what Eric was getting at there is that I'm going to draw a line at 100 miles an hour where we see this bobble, this stutter, if you will, in the back straightaway. That's probably the upshift based on our knowledge about vehicles. That's probably a fourth to fifth gear upshift potentially. There's something that's causing that stutter right there, and we're seeing that consistently where we're probably shifting at 100 miles an hour. At this point on the track, we're exiting turn 12. So we're probably really high in fourth gear, about to go to fifth gear. So what that's telling us is that fourth to fifth shift on this track is really important because this is the apex of turn 12. This is the back straightaway. Well, the game that we're really playing here, and we're not really saying what this driver's doing is good or bad. We're just trying to make sure that we point out what these things are.
Yeah.
Something that I'm looking at immediately when I look at Road
And it's
Atlanta,
kind of fun. It's a game. You and I do this a lot. And by the way, everybody, the more you do this, the more you see. You got to look into the lines. You have to look at the lines and go, what is that?
Yep. Let me pat this driver on the back real quick before we move on to our next one. And then I'll also point out one thing that I think this driver needs to work on. Clifford, if you're still able to watch, I know you reached out and said you might be busy. I like this minimum speed and the way the speed trace looks in turn one. See how it rounds out? You see that as well, Eric?
Absolutely.
And that's good because that corner is really quick. We're seeing upper 70s mile per hour. I'm not even going to look at details. It's close to 80 miles per hour. It's fast. I can tell you right now, that's a pretty good minimum speed for that corner. What I look at that I see needs some improvement here, like Eric said, to you. Turn 6, Clifford, if you're looking, I would really investigate what you're doing in turn 6. I think you're probably slowing the car down a little too much. Try to get the car in there with a little more speed. And by doing that, I don't mean brake later, but just start to roll out of your brake a little bit sooner. And you see how you have this acceleration, how the speed trace is positive. This is going from turn 6 to turn 7. So I'll manipulate the screen here. This is this turn 6 right here.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
So guys, if you get overwhelmed of where am I at on the track, probably the easiest thing in the whole world is to look at the biggest straight and look at the gigantic braking and go, oh, okay, I know where I'm at. And also what would be the slowest corner. So we're going to back that up a little bit. If we know this is 7 because it's down low, the corners are always down low. Corners aren't here, right? They're here.
Yep.
So if this is 7, right? My goofy 7 number. Andrew, take it away, brother.
Yep. Then this would be turn 6. And so I just moved the dot on the track. If you're using Apex Pro software, guys, which I like to think we all are, there's lots of great products in this space. So I'm not totally disturbed by the reality if you're not. But like Eric said, find that long straightaway, find that big braking event, and then also use the little ticker right here to slide the dot around on the track, position that, and position those crosshairs that we see right here. And that'll help you orient yourself really quickly. So before we move on to our next one, Clifford, I would look at your entry speed into 6. There's more there. We can go to it in detail at another time, but that's a turn in early. What you want to see in your speed trace is if you see acceleration between 6 and 7, sometimes that means there's opportunity there. You almost want to get through that corner and barely be able to accelerate before 7 because you hustled so much speed. We talked about that a lot in other videos, Eric. We talked about that when we did Intro to Pro Coaching at Road Atlanta. We helped people specifically attack that with the issues they had specifically with that corner, and I think we made a lot of progress. So let's look at another session here.
Could you go back for a second, brother?
Sure.
there's a neat little story in this. By the way, I like this this effort. The same exact lap, right? We're seeing some different speed traces as noted by the U versus the V. Remember where you found the U before?
Yep. This might be the wrong session. Let's try this one.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
So you were looking at right here, correct?
Yep.
So we got the right lap. Guys, there's something called a V versus a U. And this has got more of a U shape right here, right? Than a V. This would be like a V because you're going slower. Sir, could you kindly go here on the track? And since we're at apex score, we'll see what color that is.
Sure. To turn 1.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's nice and green.
That kind of confirms what you said, where you said you like the shape, and it's validated when this selection apex score is on there.
Look at all that green right there on turn in. That is a good validation to understand that U that you're seeing means you're rolling really good speed into 1. Look how a slow car is going to turn to yellow into orange on apex score really quickly going up turn 1, because all of a sudden the grip is overwhelming and the car just doesn't have enough power to take advantage of it. So, but that green right there, while the car is really loaded up, is a really good, like you said, positive reinforcement for what we're seeing in the speed trace.
So right here, all right, can you switch this to apex score, please? I want everybody to look at that blue arrow. It's probably going to be right. Yeah, looky there. See it, guys? Right there. That's what that means. So he's really getting a lot out of it. You could say that getting a lot out of it, getting a lot out of it, right? Getting a lot out of it. Making sense?
Yep. Anytime we see those flat lines on the apex score, that means that the device is saying you're as close to the limit as you can get with the given information. Anytime we're at these places where we're hovering below it, right? Those are places that have potential to be a little bit closer up to that actual limit right there. And we actually smoothed this out.
Can we go to turn 6? You remember you said, man, there might be more there on that particular lap, not every time, on that particular lap, right?
Yes, on this particular lap. And I did check. There are other laps where this driver's doing it better. But yeah, very, very good point, Eric, because look what color we're seeing right here in turn 6.
And could you put the cursor there, and we can also relate that to these lights, which is what you would see when you're in the car.
I will. I'll drag the car back right before the corner, and we'll replay it. Let's quickly move on to another driver here as well.
Sure.
Right there on the display itself. At this point in the corner in turn 6, probably a car length or 2 after the apex, you should be struggling to go back to the power there. That's how big of an entry speed corner this corner is. And we're seeing some of those red lights on the device that are showing us that we know we got more to go after there. So Clifford, keep working on turn 6. You did do it better on some other laps. Just that's one of the hardest corners. I mean, none of them are easy at Road Atlanta, but that is a toughie.
It's one of my favorites, man. Charge it.
Absolutely. Let's look at another driver's data real quick. Let's look at Dan DeSalle. He's a regular watcher of the show. Thanks for sending in your data, Dan. Guys, something that you'll notice that, and I just messed it up, but something that you'll notice, I had apex score selected down here at the bottom on my bottom graph and on the top. The app now actually will remember the last configuration you had set on your data review. So when you go back into it to view another session, you won't have to change anything to go back to what you were last seeing. I'm sorry, I'm going to leave it in landscape. I'm going to go back to the speed trace, and Eric, let's play a little I Spy. What do you spy here? And
I spy. I see some high numbers here. I see a 34. This guy's got a quick car and he's a quick driver. There's a lot of neat things. Look at that. This dude's hustling. What is this? What kind of car is this?
This is a 991.2 GT3 RS.
Aha. Yep. And we also see that, so sometimes you don't know what kind of car it is. So I'm looking right here, right? And going, yep, there's a $155 and change, give or take, plus or minus.
Yep.
And let's see here. What else do I see? I see some, looking through here. You know what I don't see, which is really neat. Remember when we saw those transmission shifts from that beautiful PDK, or from the Focus with the manual transmission?
Yep.
Does everybody see that? This
We
thing
don't
is
see
just
any.
banging gears.
Yep.
Maybe right here, maybe.
There is probably a little stutter still, but with the nature of a double clutch transmission is that they shift so quickly that it's very imperceptible. If we were to go to the longitudinal G trace, we would probably see it, that like little stutter. It's probably imperceptible on the speed trace in most cases. So that's a great thing to point out, Eric. We immediately know by looking at the speed trace, this is a paddle shifted and or really, really, really fast shifting car, because speed is not showing us that it's slowing at all when it shifts gears, whereas we saw that on the previous car that has 3 pedals and it's being shifted manually.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the green right here also. This car is this driver is just rocking it up there. There's a lot of green. I'm seeing some green here and a lot of green coming in here. Green, strong green in the brake zone. Here and seeing some here, but just this particular lap, there's some yellow, but we'd have to look a little more closely. They're obviously hustling it for doing 77% at Road Atlanta. That's a pretty high number. Do you see many 80s?
Great Apex score.
Apex score, sorry. Do you see many 80s at Road Atlanta? I don't remember seeing any.
It's hard to do. You really need something with a lot of thrust on Road Atlanta in particular, because there's a lot of really high speed tracks or high speed corners where you're going to have to overcome aero drag to keep that apex score really high. I'd say 77 is a really, really good score. In a full blown race car, you're going to see a higher score than that for sure. But like a Ferrari Challenge car, it's a good example. Probably about an 80% is what you're aiming for.
Could we go right here and see what kind of lateral load we're seeing? And if everybody remembers, that's changing this down here. I'm sorry, sir. Lateral, and then lateral load here. Whoopsie.
Okay, you want to go look at it on both of the screens?
Yeah. So do you see what he's doing, guys? I want to see the lateral value of what a car like this is doing. I'm going to make a line. Why don't you speak to this, sir? I'm going to do our famous zero. Whoopsie. Clear. I'm going to do our famous zero line.
Whoopsie. That's kind of like if you ever watched Emerald, that's kind of like when he goes bang, Eric goes whoopsie.
So would you talk about what we're seeing right here, lateral wise, charging up the hill?
Sure. Yeah. So with lateral G, we kind of have to switch our brain into a different gear, if you will. Longitudinal G is forward and backwards acceleration. Lateral G, we still have positive and negative acceleration. But what's important to know here is that turning to the right is positive acceleration. Turning to the left is negative acceleration. So we can see that based on our car position. We're at the apex of turn 1 or close to it. Right here, I moved the crosshairs by sliding this guy right here to this point on the track. And we can see that that's 1.26 positive lateral G, which means 1.26 positive G turning to the right. And that's pretty good. 1.3 sustained G pretty much through the majority of the corner. And I'm pretty sure, and Dan, if you're on here, you can correct me. I'm pretty sure this car is on the stock Michelin Pilot Cup Sport 2 tire, which is a really, really good street tire, but it is a street tire. And so this car is just a very capable car. Lots of aero on the .2 GT3 RS. So this car is actually at this speed is being helped considerably by the aerodynamic forces, which is why we see that really sustained long amount of G-force that's
it's not
in the car.
It's not this, right? It's big and nice, using all that tire right from here Just using a lot of tire.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And the way it trails off too. See how we go from this big peak G occurrence here, and it kind of starts to slowly lessen. What that's telling us is that that driver's starting to swing the dice back to longitudinal acceleration, right? Put the weight back in the rear and accelerate up the hill. And that is a really nice shape for that. That means that Dan's got a really good approach for this corner.
See some other stuff so that everyone else can see, and that's this right here. Again, we're in long. Right?
Lateral G.
Excuse me, lateral. Apologies. Yes, sir. Lateral. So what would that be, guys? Think about that for a second. That's your hand, right?
That's
halfway
a good
through
point.
the track, 40% through the track.
Lateral G is this. Long G is the pedals. Dan says very worn out Cup 2s.
Hey, this is pretty neat too. Look at this here. I want everybody to see this too.
Peter says that's going straight. How'd you know, Peter?
Look at that right there. How do you explain that?
Ooh, I know. Pick me.
Oh, you, Mr. Rains. You have a Mr. Rains, yeah?
Yeah, I was about to pee in my pants. That's the back straight, Eric, at Road Atlanta, because it turns to the right.
There's that much. This is a question. There's that, yes. How do you explain that, sir?
Well, Dan's going down the back straightaway, and let's see at what point on the track he is right here. So I had the dot pointing right here. In case the dot goes away, sometimes it does. There we go. What I'm going to do here is then I'll get rid of some of these points. I'm going to switch this ticker to speed and leave the bottom where it is and tap that. Woo! It's 155 miles per hour. Doesn't
so
take
you see
much.
That much lateral load right there, really barely turning your hands at $155.
Doesn't take very much steering input to create 0.7 lateral G at 155 miles per hour. Peter says that's why a lot of people crash in the wet there. Absolutely, Peter. In a fast car right there, it's really easy to put a lot of lateral load in the car just by barely turning the wheel because you're at really high speed. Really high speed creates really high G changes and acceleration spikes very quickly. So that's something to really respect there. Eric, if I go back to the speed
just
trace,
for fun.
I'm sorry.
Just for fun, can you go right back to that lap for a second for Dan's?
Sure.
So I want to show everybody that was on the back straight, right?
Yep.
And we're in here. Are we not?
Yep.
Oops, excuse me. No, let's see. Yes. Look where else you're feeling that same. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would this be, Mr. Rains?
I'm going to go with that would be turning either turn 3 or turning into the S's. Yep, that's turn 3.
Does everybody see that?
That's a really good point. So it's a similar amount of lateral G-force in the car as turn 3. So turning right on the back straightaway and turn 3 are similar G loads, lateral G loads. Eric, if I go to the speed trace real quick, can you point something out that this driver can improve on just based off of look at the speed trace for a couple of seconds? Respect the fact the tires are probably a little worn out.
I'm going right there.
Why do you circle that?
Because of that. Nah. Bonk, donk, bonk-a-donk. I'm looking at some other places here as well. There's some pretty shapes on all of these. They're really nice. Yeah, you can see the colors here too, right?
Yeah. So Dan, the point that I'm trying to make here is we can definitely get to braking off of the back straightaway into 10A. Your transition from throttle to brake can be a little bit quicker. We want to see a little bit more of a sharp transition, and the reason that I mentioned that there, and this is just something to think about. And we looked at the lateral G load a little bit. That lateral G, by the time you're going down the hill and turn into turn 10, has pretty much been mitigated. You're back to very close to zero lateral G, which means that even with fairly worn tires, we're going to be able to attack the brake pedal. And you've also got a car that's got a significant amount of downforce, right? So that's going to really slow the car down really quickly, and it's going to keep the car stable under braking.
In this range, especially at the higher speeds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be even more stable there.
That's where you take advantage of aero in big brake zones that some people don't.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fully take
even
advantage of, right? That's where it's working for you guys.
Yep. And
that
this
front
is
splitter, that's what that's for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the main reason that I bring that up, Dan, is because I see that same trend in these places. And what was interesting about Clifford's data from the Ford Focus that we looked at earlier, totally different car, only going 120 miles an hour, but he was pretty crisp. And Peter Krause made a really good comment. Dan, this is good stuff. I would definitely jump in on this and absorb it. Peter says, actually pretty good on the brakes once on them. Lots of easing off throttle in anticipation, though. And he's exactly right. So you're easing off the throttle as you anticipate applying the brakes. But once you get on the brake pedal, your braking in 10A is beautiful. Your release is really nice. And that is pretty much the case everywhere because you don't achieve the cornering speeds you're achieving without having a good brake release. So if you can really turn on that aggressive initial brake application, I think you'll really take your driving game to the next level.
So if he's pushing, and when he's pushing on the brake and it's a 10 and he's really pushing on it, what's the value from 0 to 10 in there that the pedal travel you'd like him to get more assertive?
Yeah, go immediately to 10, right? If we're going to be braking at a 100% effort at 10% just outside of ABS intervention, we want to get to that 10 pedal, that 100% brake effort as quickly as possible. And the reason that I bring this up here is because this is probably something, and I remember at a time in my own driving before I really thought about this more, where I was doing this a lot myself. I was doing this everywhere, and I was losing a tenth or two everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't.
And we're really just talking about this right here, just a little guy,
mm-hmm.
right? Maybe like this here too. Maybe like this here just a little bit too. Just little.
Yep. And Peter pointed that out again too. He said that his braking into 10A is a little better than it is into 1 or into 5. I'm sorry, that's 6. 5 would be right here. You don't want to see the curves like that at the top of the speed trace, right, Eric? We want to see a sharp.
Mm-hmm. Matt Romanowski calls it a sawtooth, right?
Sawtooth.
Chook. Not a.
Yep.
Whatever that is called. I better be nice.
Would be like
the kids are watching.
That guy right
there.
You
got to have Peter Krause on here. That dude's awesome. I'm going to go visit him. Peter, I'm going to come visit you this year. I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds like a threat.
He's coming to, Peter's coming to Road Atlanta.
Yeah.
January 18th and 19th.
Well, let's talk about that. One more good. Yeah, so Peter just reinforced real quick. Peter reinforced what we talked about there. Said you guys are talking about the aero at 155 miles per hour, nailing the car down so it will accept more aggressive braking initially, a pretty quick initial application. Yes, absolutely. It will.
Can you go to long G right here, brother?
Yep.
And we'll go right in this area right here, right? That's the back straight, gang. I'm gonna do that again. Right? So just so everybody sees this really quick, it's all about learning this. We all learn, right? So below that line and specifically, right in here is what we're talking about. Whoopsie. Apologies.
There goes again. Whoopsie.
So we're talking about in here, right? And there were 1, 2, actually a little more than that. What's the value right there, brother?
Our max value is -132.
Does that feel about right?
That feels pretty good to me. On pilot,
Peter, that car, that feel about right?
Yeah.
Got aero, right?
Yep.
Got a decent tire, got a good driver.
Eric, to me, the peak G that he's getting to there, the peak deceleration is right where it needs to be. What I'm looking at here is the same thing we're seeing on the speed trace, and it's that guy. That is showing us that we're easing out of the throttle, and not even that, but and we'll see this already, right? We talked about this before, but we see how the slope is decreasing in speed as we accelerate.
You're saying it's kind of doing this.
Yeah. Yep. It's just that throttle lift anticipation before we apply the brakes. And in a really fast car like this, that usually is going to be something that is exacerbated over a slower car where we don't have that speed anticipation. As we build, a lot of times faster cars will do that. We'll do that just naturally to the brain. You're approaching a corner at a really high speed, you ease off the gas on the brakes. So all of this is Dan, go out, and I would say your home track's Putnam. Dan's at Putnam a lot. Dan, I would recommend, and I think you might be down here next weekend at Barber. We can talk about this then. Do a whole session where all you think about is off the gas on the brakes, every single place on the track as quickly as you can.
That's a good place to do that, Barber. Hey, last thing before we get going here.
Sure.
There's a lot of braking right here going into 6. Makes me wonder what the green lights look like, what the lights look like going into 6.
You make a very good point. Let's look.
Only because that's a lot of braking right there. He might come that fast where he's got to brake that much. That's fair. Typically, you don't brake as much going into 6 as you do into 10A, right?
You're right. There is a little more apex score to be had all the way through 6 in this particular instance. Not a lot, but you're right. I think there's probably a little bit of overslowing that's happening here. And we'll replay it one more time. We're watching the light display on the right side of the screen. There's 1 red light. There's 2. There's a bunch right there at the exit. Right. So there definitely is a little more grip available in turn 6. Dan, before we go, I'll mention turn 6. If you ever get a chance to get out on the track, go stand down at the apex of turn 6 or close to turn in, anywhere you can kind of really get down close to the track surface, and just look how uphill it is. It also cambers. It's cambered and uphill. And it's a long duration corner that really doesn't have any value for getting a good exit because you're going to slow down again immediately. Peter just said it. I don't even have to say it. Quicker release into turn 6. Release that brake pedal a little bit sooner. Start getting out of that brake pedal and just trust that.
Plus, that corner worker down there, he gets really bored. He likes talking to people. At least he did a couple weeks ago when I was there.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah. Go hang out right there. That's a great place to go and just experience the topography of the track.
We got to get Peter Krause on here. I want to watch you guys go to town. Maybe do something at VIR. Maybe do something, some wacky track. Maybe Daytona, right? Daytona's coming up. That'd be kind of neat.
Daytona would be a cool one to do. Peter, let's definitely do that. VIR, Daytona. Daytona is probably really relevant this time of year with the Rolex. Eric, I think that's pretty close to where we need to be time-wise tonight. We've been on here about 40 minutes. This is a lot of fun. You want to call this I Spy?
I Spy.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop one more link to Instructor Summit into the comments here. If you're in the greater Atlanta area or you want a nice off-season road trip, let us know. I also have a sign up for Data and Donuts, which is this weekend in Birmingham. That is right here. If you want to see what my lovely office looks like in person and you're in the Birmingham, Atlanta, Huntsville, Montgomery, Nashville metro area, come check us out. I'm going to drop a link to the sign up for that as well. I've already got 7 or 8 folks signed up that are going to be coming. So it's just going to be an absolute party. I'm looking forward to it. Let me find that link real quick so I can post it in there so you guys can sign up if you are going to be in the area. It's going to be a lot of fun. Eric, you got anything else to mention?
No, man. I'm going to go get some pizza.
Awesome. I'm going to go home and get some dinner as well. Guys, Happy New Year. If you're watching this video after it's ended, still let us know what you got for Christmas. We want to know. We hope it's race car parts or something that's going to make you, get back to the track in 2020. So happy 2020. We're back to the roaring 20s, Eric. It's weird how that
Look
comes
into
full
those
circle.
lines. Look into the long G and the lat G. Look what they're doing. And then go, what is that? That's your goal, guys. You should always keep looking in lat and long and speed and go, what does that say? What does that mean? That's the secret to understanding squigglies.
Yep. Be deductive. Be like Sherlock Holmes with your data. Investigate.
Deductive.
All right. Whoopsie. See you later, Eric.
See you, everybody.